Good for you, everybody, all you elected officials trying so hard to figure out how to make an 8 or 9 or whatever dumb page amount document to say, hey, just be nice to someone else, but we're not going to define what nice is because then we don't get in trouble for it. Hello to the world, it is Taylor, and you have stumbled across Dwell On It, and if you haven't stumbled across, you found one of the links I've thrown out and about somewhere, or you are part of the Dwell On It mailing list. Welcome to Dwell On It, a series where I, Taylor, answer your questions about my lived experience as a trans woman. If you are new here, please subscribe. I have content showing up every week that's answering these questions, and that said, if you've got questions, and for anyone watching this right now, throw them in the comments, or depending on the platform we're looking at, you can use the DM feature too. For a visual description to get things started, I'm in my office / living room / gym, as I always like to say, and but in seriousness, white 6'1" transgender woman. I have straightened blonde hair going over the left side of my face. I have my 3 dermal piercings underneath my right eye going in an outwards fashion towards a cluster earring at the top of my right ear, and I've got 2 stud piercings and a nose piercing. I'm currently wearing it's a white half sleeve sweater that's got blue and light blue stripes across. If anyone's been trying to follow along with my nails on a regular basis, because I am very much a hand talker, I do have a fresh set of nails as well, so feel free to take a look. And for a visual description, these are going off of a turquoise, silver, and black style with some bling on top of it too. So that is the current set. Yeah, I think that's about it for a visual description. She, her pronouns. I'm in Treaty 1 territory, which is Winnipeg, Manitoba. And to start things off with a lot of things, as always, I've got 2 fundraisers going on in the description. Please take a look. One is for Run for Women, one is for Walk for Muscular Dystrophy. The targets for both are $1,411. The deadlines are June 5th and June 11th respectively. Hop in there, add a donation. You get a tax receipt for your donation. To every dollar matters, and it's absolutely appreciated. On the topic of other campaigny things, Letters for Trans Kids, please look for a link for it right here for a Letters for Trans Kids memo that I did, and I would love it if you can take a moment to visit that video and then you do your part for that campaign too. This is super important stuff. I think that's pretty much it. Welcome, and instead of getting into the grab bag as usual, I'm going to use today's experience as an opportunity to clean up some questions that I've had in the queue and get things done all together. Earlier today, I spoke to our city, as a matter of fact, about a policy that was being introduced. I didn't like how weak it was. Frankly, what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to answer some questions that I received from other individuals that are trans-based, and then I'm going to close this episode with discussing 2 questions that I received from elected officials about what I was talking about. In the description of that is going to be a link as well about this policy. If I can, I'm also going to include pretty much what a script was that I was going with to share to the city as well. So the first question, as a matter of fact, is some feedback from another video that I did that was using workouts as an illusion of priorities. So that said, I'm gonna put that right here. Please check it out. It was a fun episode. One of the questions I had about that episode, which I'd love to talk about today, very interesting video. I like that you said you had to accept yourself. You didn't say anything about workouts that are worth the effort though. Can you do a video when you talk about your workouts to help a girl out? Thanks. Absolutely. This is going to be another moment I'm going to put to a video right here of another question about workouts and transitioning. First and foremost, your mileage may vary, and what are your goals? The first thing to consider when it comes to working out is, what are you looking to achieve? Because if you're trying to harness the 1% influencer body, already erase that. So I know I'm getting already a little too deep into it when it comes to that, but what I'm trying to say is, what are you expecting of yourself? What is your goal from exercise? Are you trying to adapt a physical figure? Are you trying to run a marathon? Are you trying to reach a new personal best when it comes to deadlifts or a bench press or squat or whatever? Those all have different things when it comes to how to achieve your goals. At my heaviest, off the top of my head, I was about 70 pounds heavier. Some of it was muscle, some of it was snacks. Nonetheless, I made a commitment to myself to exercise. And by doing that, my priority with exercise was balancing. And the balancing isn't all about exercise too, because you can work out all you want, but if you don't fuel yourself properly either, you're not gaining what you want out of those workouts. Two, when it comes to a successful workout, it also must be complemented with a successful diet. There's a saying, I'd like to consider it a pretty true saying, abs are made in the kitchen. When it comes to exercise and the idea of I'm going to get rid of fat here or there, it doesn't work by targeting certain areas for starters. So what the saying of abs get made in a kitchen is trying to suggest is you're mindful of the macros that you consume in conjunction with the exercise that you are doing. When your body is like gaining the nutrients that you're putting into it, you want to make sure that you're not starving one while overexerting yourself in another. That's all the sciencey stuff. I'm not a fitness coach. I don't plan on being a fitness coach. So please remember that if you want to get ultra deep into those types of values, absorb more feedback from people who are, in that as a career or whatnot. But the moral of the story that I'm trying to get at is you can do 1,000,001 push-ups, but if you don't make sure to give your body the nutrients it needs to make up for those 1,000,001 push-ups, you're not going to receive as much benefit as you could if you did not treat yourself and feed yourself the right way too. When it comes to myself, when it comes to workouts, as I mentioned earlier, I have a balanced type of workout. I have a schedule that is built into 3 parts, especially when I'm able to do it regularly. I'm not gonna lie that there's just been a lot of stuff going on in life lately that I haven't been able to do as much as I want as I did last year, for example. But I always like to start my workouts with some yoga. What it does, it just kind of gets me in the mood, and also with the yoga, it gives me a little bit of mobility, right, to just kind of start loosening up and whatnot, because stretching is important when it comes to exercise. So yoga kind of like doubles that function of just slowly get into, okay, it's exercise time while also getting that body movement starting to work out, pardon the pun. The next thing that I do is I get into a strength resistance, and I've put together a program for myself. I built it from a lot of those challenges that you would find, 30-day challenges that you would find from like Live Strong or Self or whatnot. I just want to stay in shape, I want to stay healthy, I want to stay mobile. They've taken a lot of those monthly challenges and just kind of combined them all together so that you would have those challenges that would be like the 30-day legs challenge and then the 30-day arms challenge and whatever, and I would just take day 1 from each of those and just smash them together. And what I also really liked about those types of challenge is that they were progressive, which is my style too, so that when you're early in the month or early in your workout, you're not going like turning the dial to 11 right away. You're getting kind of into the workout as it is. So it's like you do your 5 push-ups, you do your 10 squats, you do your 10 lunges, so on and so on and so on. The next day, you do your 6 push-ups, and you do your 11 squats and your 11 lunges. Now, granted, I am abridging what I use for a workout regularly, but that's kind of the point of what I did. I took a lot of those monthly challenges that I would get in my inbox and whatever and just smashed them together so that I ended up creating a full body workout every day with some rest periods as well, because your body does need to heal. That is also progressive, which means that it would, in principle, be going at the rate that your body is developing for exercise. And so same thing when it comes to yoga. I put together something that's somewhat of a progressive scale when it comes to the yoga as well, in terms of something similar to 30 days. So same thing, as the month goes on, every day gets just a little more intense. So I start myself with some yoga. Middle of my workout is, as I mentioned, strength resistance, and then the back end of that is either cardio, which would be on one of my machines, or depending on how things are in my schedule, I might replace it with a HIIT session. So the HIIT session is, in principle, going to be, again, strength and resistance and whatnot. However, this is going to be at a higher intensity. Like, it's literally part of the name, high intensity interval training. And like I said, that's all just dependent on what time in the calendar schedule that I have built for myself is. I don't really know how to answer what a workout looks like otherwise as kind of a generic thing. All I know is this: work out for yourself. Working out is one of the greatest things you can do for your mental health. It's also obviously great for your physical health, great for your mobility, and so on and so on and so on. Workout for yourself. And once you have a better understanding about your goals, then it's going to help a lot more about how working out is going to get included better in your day, because you know what you're doing with it. If you can work out early in the morning, I personally enjoy it more than working out later in the day. I find that my day goes a lot better. You get all busy and messy and you have a shower and your body is just like, yeah, that felt really good. Eat healthy, eat appropriate. I wish I can, like, again, spout generic things where, like, this is the one size fits all answer. I think I kind of, like, hit some topics, but honestly, if you're looking for a place to start, as I mentioned, just with a website like Livestrong, I'll just use Livestrong as a good example. They've got challenges, regular challenges from different areas of the body or different things. It could be a dumbbell challenge where you just have to acquire 2 5-pound dumbbells and 2 10-pound dumbbells, and it gives you a 30-day workout or a 28-day workout or whatever, specifically based on dumbbells. And it's not just about arms, it's about, legs and other areas of the body too. If you get a challenge that might be a kettlebell challenge, right? So that's, again, it's going to look at likely a full body workout, cardio challenges. Like, it's a great place to start. And like I said, what I've done is I've collected a bunch of them just from my own inbox. Now, spoiler, right? After a period of time, they repeat, but the point stands, and I just incorporated them because they worked for me. They felt good. I kind of hope that helps out. I don't feel like I gave a good answer, but it's an answer. Another question that I have to squint for this one. I'm not wearing my glasses right now. Hi, I've been on HRT almost a week and my chest is slightly growing, but there's some shrinking I'm not comfortable with. In your experience, does it shrink or just them? I was told it would just be them, but I think it's not the case for me, so I'm wondering how it is for you. Not gonna lie, it's a little personal, but I'm okay with that. That's the point of Dwell On It, and I appreciate, honestly, the vulnerability that this individual is sharing as well, so I'm okay with that. So let's use workouts as an analogy, just the same with workouts. Speaking earlier, if you don't use your muscles will start to eventually reduce. Interpret that as you see fit. I've only seen affirmations that testes, for example, do reduce in size over time when it comes to being on an estrogen-based HRT. I'm not entirely on the up and up of the science about why that area gets targeted. It kind of just makes sense to me in my head, but I'm not going to try to just blurb out what sounds like science. Leave that to a doctor to answer. But I have only seen those types of affirmations of, yep, that happens, yep, that happens, yep, that happens, yep, that happens. But nonetheless, another thing I've mentioned numerous times before, HRT is puberty 2.0. And puberty, for pretty much anyone, you think it's like a 2 or 3 year long process. So you have to be mindful about what is happening with your body over a period of time. What is happening within the first week is absolutely not a benchmark of what the rest of the, let's say, 2-3 years is going to be before your body starts to get a little plateauy with some of the major things, if you want to call it like that. Speaking of major things, I will say that I'm happy. I have a libido that is so low that you need a shovel to find it, but that's aside from the point. I'll just go back to the point where when it comes to I remember someone said to me before, it's like, can you just call it a horn instead of anything else? I'm like, all right, fine, horn. I do remember reading, and whether it was on public forums like Reddit or just random articles or whatever, essentially, if it's perpetually hands off, definitely, absolutely will have a reduction in size. It's just no attention, just literally does not exist in life at all, whatever. I think the best way to put it is and this is really difficult for me to talk about because I get really sheepish when it comes to body parts. But nonetheless, no usage, full out, hands off, nothing. There will be a decrease in size. If it's not fully ignored, that's a different story. If you are sexually active and certainly enjoy, spending time with yourself or with a partner or whatever, that shouldn't be an issue. But your mileage may vary. I want to underline that. To kind of tidy things up in a bow is depending how am I gonna put it so I don't get into too much shit. Depending on how often your horn gets blown, it shouldn't be too much of a problem when it comes to how large that instrument stays. It's probably a good way to put it. Oh, I can't wait to get out of this question. Okay, so I'm happy to get out of that question. Honestly, though, I do love questions like that. I don't mind getting into that type of stuff. Like I said, I got really sheepish when it comes to speaking about like genitals and stuff like that, and I don't know why, right? I have no reason to get sheepish about it. It's just a piece of my body that I don't really invest much thought into. It just exists. So maybe that's it, but I've always been like that. As a matter of fact, I remember I was at a volleyball tournament way back when, or in between games, I'm at the table with my team, and we're, just being adults and so on, and everyone's laughing and I'm laughing too and whatever, and I don't remember everything that happened, but I remember that we're all at the table, we're just being adults, and I was trying to explain something, and one of my teammates, my friend, shows up and just asking why I'm stuttering so much, and I lean over and I'm like, I can't say dirty words. And yeah, that's just been me, and I do feel bad because she spit her beer out laughing, but that's aside from the point. Anyway, let's start talking about what happened with the city. So the city had a corporate advertising policy brought forward that was getting recommended to be approved. If it amounts to anything, that corporate advertising policy is related to campaigning that I have been, regularly discussing with Higher Weller about incentivizing organizations to improve their CSR so that it improves their business model, which improves their presence in the city, which and in the communities that they're part of, which then of course improves the quality of living for the members in those communities. The challenge with that is that policy was so soft. I've seen employee handbooks with more rigorous accountability inside it, and that's what I was challenging the most about it. Like I was saying earlier, I'm going to try to include what I was saying. I don't know if it's going to be a link or a copy paste or whatever. I haven't figured that part out yet, but nonetheless, one of the biggest arguments I had about the policy was how loose it was. There was no teeth to it. It was just a fancy glorified way of saying, hey, be nice to each other. Hey, if we're going to go ahead and do advertising business with a company, just make sure that they're not spewing hate. Obviously, that's a hardly a meaningful policy. I needed more rigorous accountability, and with that, there's something called ESG, environmental and social governance. And what that is essentially, it's similar to CSR. CSR is an internal responsibility, corporate social responsibility. ESG is something that socially minded investors use to filter out organizations that they're going to do business with. There's metrics and standards about who they want to do business with. These are our business values. Do you meet these? Instead of what are your hopes and dreams? So with Winnipeg being a member of Pride at Work Canada, Pride at Work Canada, as part of all of their processes and whatever, they include a 35-question audit. They're uniquely Canadian because Pride at Work Canada, it's in the name. But what that audit also does is it gets a response about where does your company stand in terms of what benchmarks would be expected out of an organization that is also aligned with something like Pride at Work Canada. And my argument was Winnipeg would be responsible to use a metric of ESG, and they can use the Pride at Work Canada audit for a benchmark if they don't have an existing system, and any organization that wants to align themselves by applying for a tender, for example, for advertising, would have to show the city that they had applied for an audit through Pride at Work Canada, and if the benchmarks from that meet the minimum expectations from the city of Winnipeg, hey, good business partner. If they don't meet those, not good business partner. Simple as that. So there were two questions that I received from counselors, and one of the questions was essentially along the lines of, have I seen any other cities that have had better policies than what has been presented? Is there another city that does better things? I don't care. I haven't bothered looking into it because that is not relevant to the fact that it can be done. Another city not doing it is not a reason to also not do do it. If the value exists, and this value does exist, it encourages organizations to prove their equitable nature. And don't get me wrong, I understand there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that you can still kind of fudge around with things, but when it comes to that audit, with that Pride at Work Canada audit, the way that it works is that there are two individuals who actually answer the questions. One of the individuals is from the organization itself, typically like an HR individual or someone who's responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a representative from a local social service, right? A community service, like a system that is designed for uplifting the 2S LGBTQIA plus community. So between somebody from the applicant's organization and the community service working together to answer those questions, and then those questions then get provided to Pride at Work Canada to get reviewed. So it's not just like answering your own questions and judging what you think. It's not just a personal quiz about what your favorite sandwich is. There's work that actually gets done behind it. It doesn't matter if another city does that. It would be a remarkable thing for our city to do, to put a minimum expectation on the equitable nature of organizations that are willing to do business with our city. The reason for that is if people want to align themselves and cash in on city cash, let that organization be one of the what feels like incredibly few that are also mutually interested in uplifting the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, let alone other vulnerable communities as well. That same counselor also introduced the point of, things can take a while to get whatever done. At the very beginning of today's meeting, they did acknowledge and honor the Holocaust, kind of remembering it happened, and that's effing bullshit, and none of that ever again, please and thanks. And another one of the counselors, did that introduction and also mentioned that there will always be efforts going forward for never again. But when this council was, it's going to take time and so on, that's not a valid thing, especially on a day like today. If you're going to affirm never again, but then you want to discuss about how long things take because there's so much red tape about protecting the bigots and protecting the stakeholders and this and that, pick your battles. If you truly believe in things like never again, then that means that you are going to fight for the people who need help, not the people who are trying to make more money. So another question I got from another counselor was about if my concern is about tangible measures of the nature of the policy is not the existence of the policy in the first place, something that validates itself as a tangible step. Before this policy got introduced, they didn't have one. It's really difficult for me to go ahead and give the, you gotta listen to me without having an ability to see this policy that I'm talking about. So I'm going to try to link it or something, but nonetheless, if you look at the policy, it is weak, it is soft, it is empty, it is blank. It's essentially saying, hey, just be nice. Don't do business with bad people. But how do you define bad people, right? How do you define organizations that have good reputation? What is the definition to have those types of organizations to partner with? There's nothing in there for that. If this policy, which apparently, by the way, to include all these measures, apparently costs nothing, what they ended up doing is introduce a policy that costs nothing, which means that it should have existed since day one, because if doing the right thing is free, why has that not been done since the outset? But I digress. And to answer the question that if this counts as a tangible value, my answer to that is no, it's not. It's a weak, bullshit, boring, empty, useless, hardly reliable, barely accountable policy. I'm going to try to link my conversation if I'm able to go ahead and take it off the City of Winnipeg's website. And so if that's the case, it's going to be right here. Like I said, there's nothing behind it. Nothing. And the only thing that I have to say about that policy is the same thing I said to the counselors, is congratulations for putting, hey, being nice to other people in print. Good for you, everybody, all you elected officials trying so hard to figure out how to make an 8 or 9 or whatever dumb page amount document to say, hey, just be nice to someone else, but we're not going to define what nice is because then we don't get in trouble for it. I'm gonna wrap up on that note, so thank you so much for hanging in there for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to, again, please like, share, subscribe. As I always like to say, please subscribe, please like, please share. Again, in the description, 2 fundraisers. One is Run for Women, and one is Walk for MD. One is in support of women's mental health awareness, and women's wellness programs, and the other is in support of Canadians, their families, and their caretakers who are experiencing over 160 neuromuscular disorders. And both, of course, between the two are just the additional ways of, making sure that the support, the improvement, the advocacy, and so on get those funds too. So if you want to support either of those, please take a look in the description, do an online donation, get a tax receipt for that. Please share while you're in the description. As always, there is that campaign for New Mode. Believe me, just because I spoke to the city, that doesn't mean this project's done. It also means that your city might be interested in discussing this as well too. So please make sure to click the link. It took me less than 14 seconds one time to go ahead and fill it out, especially if you've got autofill saved on your browser. So name, email address, postal code, hit send. A pre-made letter is already there, gets sent to your elected officials in your area, and it always includes an email that goes to the mayors of Winnipeg and Toronto as well. So please take a moment to do that and share. Big surprise. Letters for Trans Kids is a campaign that is still ongoing. I put a video out for it, as I mentioned at the beginning of this one. I really recommend you take a look at it. So it's going to be in the little dot on the top right of your screen right up there if you haven't seen it earlier. It's also going to be in the description, I believe, so make sure to take a look at that. Please give it a chance to watch. It's about 12 minutes long, and it is a very important message for everybody to listen to, and it is a very, very important thing for everyone who's listening to this right now to participate with as well. Hashtag letters number 4 trans kids. Get included with that action because people need your help. Trans kids are under siege and they need your help. If you enjoyed this content, as I said, please stay updated by hitting subscribe. I upload new Dwell On It content once a week. I get into a habit now of including shorts, which is segments of Dwell On It episodes, and also other little mini projects that I've been working on. And as I mentioned earlier, please share. So between now and until later, I want you to have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week, as I always enjoy saying, because who knows what's going on anyway nowadays at this time of year. And I'll talk to you later.